Okay, we're here with our student Luke to just do a quick warm-up on geometry. Ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay, let's first talk about just about some vocabulary here. Okay, so first thing, perimeter. The perimeter is the distance around any shape, so it's really the total length of its sides. Like here's a rectangle, for instance. It's got a length of 5 feet and a width of 4 feet. So what would its perimeter be? How would you figure that out?
It would be 5 times 2 plus 4 times 2.
Good. What's 5 times 2?
10.
And what's 4 times 2?
8.
So what's that together?
18.
18. Yep, so the perimeter here is 18 feet. Okay, pretty
Okay.
easy. Now, the next thing, vocabulary, area. So the area is the amount of space a shape covers. So that rectangle is covering a certain amount of space there. And the way that we measure that space, we can measure it, is to divide it up into little squares here. So that's what we've done. Each one of these squares is 1 foot by 1 foot. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so we could count up the number of squares that are in there, and that would tell us the total area. But do you know a quicker way?
Yeah, 4 times 5, or the length times the width.
Length times the width, right? So what would that be?
20.
20. And what is the units for area? Do you know? Is it feet like perimeter, or is it something else?
Oh, feet squared.
Feet squared, right? Because each one of those little squares is 1 square foot. So area here is 5 times 4 is 20 feet squared. Okay, more vocabulary. Parallel. So parallel is when two lines in a plane never cross. Okay, they have to be on the same flat space like a plane, but when they never cross, that means they're parallel. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And we also know that shapes can have parallel sides. So even though this shape right here doesn't have a full line going across the top that goes on forever, we can still say that the top is parallel to the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Very good. Now, perpendicular is different. It's when two lines or line segments meet at a right angle. And we have this little symbol that we use right here to show that there's a square or right angle. Do you remember what a right angle measures in degrees?
45 degrees.
45 degrees is close. It's actually double that. It's 90 degrees. So a 90-degree angle is that little square angle, and it's also known as a right angle, okay?
Okay.
All right. And then the last thing is symmetry. So symmetry is when two sides of a shape are mirror images of one another. So here we have a triangle, and if we were to put a line right there, you can see that the left side is kind of like a mirror image of the right side. It's kind of like that line is the mirror. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so that line, it has a fancy name. It's called the axis of symmetry. But basically, anytime you can put an axis of symmetry on a shape, then it's symmetrical or it has symmetry. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just by the way, do you see any other symmetrical shapes on the page?
Yeah, the first two.
The first two. Okay, so you mean the rectangle here at the top?
Yeah.
Yeah, the rectangle here at the top, you could put an axis of symmetry that goes up and down, or you could put an axis of symmetry that goes right to left, right? Or left to right.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, now let's talk about some types of shapes over here. So, let's just do a quick vocabulary review of the number of sides and what shape it's called. So these are pretty easy probably. So three-sided shape, what's that called?
Triangle.
Triangle. Okay, now the next one actually is kind of a big word. What's a four-sided shape called?
Quadrilateral.
Quadrilateral, that's exactly right. Quad means four, and lateral means sides. So 4 sides is quadrilateral. How about a 5 sides? Oops, went ahead and did it. Pentagon, right?
Yeah.
Pent means 5. How about 6 sides?
Hexagon.
Hexagon, very good. There is a 7-sided shape, it's called a heptagon, but you don't use that much. How about an 8-sided shape?
Octagon.
Octagon, right? That's just like a stop sign, has an octagon shape. Now, what's the general term for a many-sided shape? Do you remember? Starts with a P? That's okay. It's a polygon. So poly means many. Anytime you hear that in a word, it's going to be many, and gon means sides. So polygon means a many-sided shape. So all those things, triangles, quadrilaterals, pentagons, those are all polygons. Okay?
Okay.
All right, now let's talk about quadrilaterals specifically. We're going to classify them based on different characteristics. So here we have a quadrilateral, and it has 2 pairs of parallel sides. The left and the right are parallel, and the top and bottom are parallel. So what do we call that? It has the word parallel in it.
Parallelogram.
Parallelogram, okay? Good. Now, what if we have just, well, how would you describe this shape here?
A trapezoid?
It is a trapezoid. Good memory that that's the name. But how would you describe it as far as how many parallel sides it has?
There's only two.
There's only two. So there's only one pair of parallel sides, unlike a parallelogram, which has two pairs, right?
Yeah.
And as you said, the word for that is a trapezoid. Okay, how about this one? How would you describe this shape?
They're all parallel.
All sides are parallel. And what about those angles?
They're all right angles.
They're all right angles. So this is a parallelogram, right? With all right angles. And what's the word for that?
Quadrilateral.
It's a quadrilateral, but it's a special kind. Starts with an I?
Rectangle.
There you go, a rectangle. Okay, good. Now how about this one? You probably know the word for this one, but how would you describe it before we say what it is?
All sides are equal.
All sides are equal. So it's a rectangle with all sides are equal. Okay, and what's the name for that?
Square.
Square. Easy one, right? Okay, and then finally, how would you describe this shape?
None of them are right angles, but all the sides are parallel.
All the sides are parallel, and I've tried to draw it here so that all the sides are also equal. So it's a parallelogram with the two pairs of parallel sides, and all sides are equal. Do you remember what this one is called?
Rhombus?
Yeah, it's a rhombus. Okay, great. So let's just do a little bit of a fill in the blank here, okay? All rectangles are...
Parallelogram?
Parallelogram, good. What else could you put in there? What other word could you put in there?
A polygon?
Polygon, good. Any others?
It could be a square.
Okay. Well, not all rectangles are squares, though. Some rectangles are squares, right? How about quadrilateral? Would that work?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So here I've put in quadrilaterals and parallelograms, and you also got polygons. That would be a good one to put in the blank. Okay, one more here. All squares are, what could go in the blank here?
Rectangles.
Rectangles, good.
Parallelograms.
Parallelograms, good. What else?
Quadrilaterals.
Quadrilaterals. Anything else? Some people would say, I'll go ahead and fill it in here, that last one. Some people would say squares are also rhombuses. Some people define a rhombus as not having right angles, so sometimes you'll see that. But sometimes you just see a rhombus is a parallelogram with all sides equal, so square is a type of rhombus, some people would say. Okay, so now let's move on to the last section here, graphing in the coordinate plane. So let's review how this works, okay? Each point has two coordinates, one for x and one for y, okay? Mm-hmm. The first number is the x value, and the second is the y value. And we write the coordinates like this. Here I put an example, 3, -2. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the 3 would be which value, the x or the y?
X.
And the -2?
Y.
Okay, good. So let's go ahead and put a coordinate plane here. And I've put 5 points on here. And what I'd like you to do is just kind of tell me what the coordinates of each point are and how you know that. So let's go ahead and do this point here first. What are the coordinates of that point?
The x is 1, 3.
Good.
And the y is 2.
So if we label it like that, is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go up here to the upper left point up here. How about that one?
The x is -2.
Uh-huh.
And the y is 4.
Okay, so if we write it in like that, does that look accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do the lower right one here. How about that one?
The y is -4.
Uh-huh.
And the x is 3.
So what should I write then?
3 -4.
Very good. Okay. Now let's do the lower left point right here. How about that one?
X is -3.
Mm-hmm.
And the y is -3.
And how would I write that then?
-3, -3.
-3, -3. Very good. So let's just quickly look. If I'm up in this quadrant up here, is the x value positive or negative?
Positive.
And how about the y value?
Positive.
Okay, good. And if I move over to this quadrant, can you describe this one?
X is negative, but the y is positive.
Okay, how about this one over here?
The x is positive, but the y is negative.
And how about this one down here?
They're both negative.
Both negative. And then finally, this last point right here, what would be the coordinates of that point?
0, 0.
0, 0. And do you know the special word for that?
Origin?
It's the origin, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So that was just a quick review of geometry, and now we're ready to move on to new topics, all right?
Okay.
Excellent work.